Three, two, one. Sip of tea, we have liftoff. Hi, my name's Chris. If you're discovering this channel, I teach French at We Communicate. I'm a French teacher, and if you've watched my videos before, welcome back. Your presence is much appreciated. Thank you very much. He will learn French in a year. This is the title of this video, and I'm talking about a certain student that I spotted. He just started classes 2 weeks ago. I barely know him, and I already know, or so I believe, that he will learn French within a year. And I really do think that he's going to do really well in this video. I'm going to share with you what I see in him that makes me believe that the results are going to be really good. I think any person in a profession develops an eye. It's a sort of, I don't know, it's more than anything rational could explain, which is why, incidentally, it's going to be a complicated video that I'm going to try and get through a complex idea to you that I myself find very hard to put into words. So I'm going to talk for a long time, and bear with me, please. I think it's worth watching. I think it's worth trying to understand what a teacher sees in a student that makes him believe that a year from now, a student he barely knows, just signed up, is going to do well at French a year from now. So what's so special about this student? I think I'm seeing him things in this student's behavior, things that he tells me, things in his attitude that tells me that the results are going to be good. And I barely know him, as I mentioned. I always listen very carefully to students' stories, things they tell me. And I think that the smallest things, it's like, I think psychologists do that actually. If you've ever seen a psychologist, you know, they'll stop you and say, "Oh, say that again. What was that?" You know, they'll have interest for things that you thought were completely innocent and innocuous, and they'll note things, they'll make connections between things that you didn't even realize were there. So I think on my own little level, I think I do things like that, similar things to that also as a teacher. And I listen very carefully to students, and the smallest things they say, my experience has shown me, these smaller things they say have much bigger consequences than they realize. And it can shape their future behavior and ultimately their results in French. This student I'm talking about, of whom I think he is going to be very successful, is saying the right things, and he's behaving in a way that tells me it's going to be good for him. And he is a complete beginner at French. He literally started last week or 2 weeks ago, but I think I know. And it will be interesting to make another video a year from now if by chance he's still learning through my website. It'd be very interesting to see where he gets to. I'll now tell you a different story altogether. I once, when I was still teaching kids and young people and people of all ages, I was once in a lesson with a young girl who lives nearby, and I think we were on modal verbs. Modal verbs, if you know, are a type of verb like must, can, they express possibility, obligation. They're a separate class of verbs, especially in English, less so in French, but anyway, it's pouvoir, devoir, vouloir. And that was sort of the thing we were working on in that period in time. And I told the young girl, I suggested, well, do the exercise on modal verbs that I have on the website, and I'll see you next week and we'll talk about it. Next week came, and I asked her, so how are the modal verbs going? Did you learn anything? Yeah, she said, yeah, I've been working on them. And my heart lifted, my heart brightened up, and I said, really? Oh, you've been working on the modal verbs, have you? Then she said, yeah. I've been using Quizlet. I deflated. My heart sank because I hear the word. I said, okay. How's that going for you then? You learned anything new? Did you develop? No, not really. No, haven't learned anything. She, of course, didn't join the dots together, and she couldn't see that there was a clear link between cause to effect and not getting those results. And I'm not talking about the quality or lack thereof of Quizlet. What I'm talking about is further up, the initial frame of mind when she made that decision to use Quizlet. Was it a frame of mind for success or not? And I'm always talking about going upstream in my videos, the frame of mind with which you approach the learning. To me, that's the most important thing. So what happened was I suggested to the young girl to revise the modal verbs, and she made a choice. Down this road there was Chris's website, in which she would have been sure to learn something by doing the exercises, and going down that road there was Quizlet, where she ultimately didn't learn anything. What's very interesting is the frame of mind in which she did it. She was attracted to the vibrations of Quizlet. They were both on that frequency, and this is what I'll be talking about in this video. My new student, who's going to learn French within a year or so, I believe, also mentioned Quizlet. But he also mentioned very quickly that he won't be using it anymore. Now, him and I never spoke about Quizlet. When people mention Quizlet to me, I see signs, I hear things, I hear a little red flag going. That's what I really hear, I'll be honest. I hear red flags, I see red flags. But I never criticize it. I never say, okay, the more sources the merrier. Use Quizlet. But what I see is, why are you drawn to that? And what does it say about you that you are drawn to Quizlet? That's the crucial question. That's why I mentioned going upstream. I'm looking at patterns of behavior. That's what I'm really looking at. So I didn't influence this new student. I never said anything bad about them. I didn't share my opinion on Quizlet. To be honest, I've never even tried them, or at least I tried them once. That was 2 days ago. I clicked on it 5 times, there were flashcards, okay. I know what they're about because I did investigate them. I know the story of Quizlet, I know how it came about, and I'll be talking about it later. But the fact that interests me a lot is that this new student, who is going to be successful at French, gave up Quizlet very quickly. And he did it by himself because I never mentioned it to him. There's a thing I often mention in my videos, is the notion of going upstream. It's very important to me. What is your frame of mind when you approach the task? I think the mental programming guides the future results. I'll be talking a lot about this in this video. It's like a radar and a frequency. So the question is, to me, what frequency is your radar tuned to? What frame of mind are you in that will guide you to specific choices? Because it's never innocent. To come back to the young girl I mentioned, the student, she's operating at a certain frequency. It's not innocent. Her frequency was vibrating on the frequency of Quizlet. She wasn't vibrating on my frequency. She wasn't vibrating on the frequency of doing a bit of work, of learning a new skill. She was vibrating on a different frequency. It's never innocent. I think, if I were to get philosophical for a second, I think we live in a society that loves success, but strangely we love it for our own entertainment. We're not so much interested in the frame of mind of success. That part is a little less interesting. We like to see the result. We like to see champions at sports. We like to see people who succeed brilliantly at the cinema, in their careers, but we're not quite interested in the frame of mind behind success. I'll take as an example Simone Biles, the athlete who did so well at the Olympics. She performs miracles and we love it. We love to see Simone Biles win, and we are entertained. But we're not interested in how she got there, the frame of mind that got her there, and the way she thinks, because I'm pretty damn sure Simone Biles does not process, call it what you want, reality, everyday life. She has a different frequency. She doesn't process her time, she doesn't value her time in the same way. She values her time, she makes different choices according to different frequencies that get her to these results. And understanding that is annoying, isn't it? It's damned annoying, but we love the results. Students who mention Quizlet to me, or Duolingo, and by the way, we've all tried Duolingo, there's no shame, I've tried it also, it's alright, it's like not knowing what Netflix is if you're watching smart TV. I mean, come on, let's not pretend there's a smart way around it. We've all tried it, I've tried it, I tried it for Hebrew. I was very happy to the very first sentence when I wanted to learn Hebrew on Duolingo was, "Love is not coming today." That's when I knew I would never learn it. Literally, the first sentence, you want to learn Hebrew on Duolingo, the first sentence in English is "Love is not coming today." I don't know how they do it. And I used it for Danish also for 6 months, and the number of times I said the spider and the cow were eating the strawberry or something crazy. So we all tried it. I'm not criticizing. It's all right. You can't really miss it, can you? But being attuned to that frequency is not innocuous. It's not innocent. Sorry, it's never an innocent thing. It says a lot about the frame of mind and the tuning of our frequency. I too was in tune with that frequency. I thought it made sense. But it says a lot about the frame of mind I was in when I made that decision. It said a lot about the results I expected to reach. I vibrated with that type of learning solution. It says something about what we'll attain in the future, the results we'll reach. Before we go much further, for all you keyboard warriors out there, it's not against Quizlet. This video is not against Quizlet. I'm using it as an example to illustrate a wider point. It's a complex point, which is why it takes time to develop. Let's think about it. What is Quizlet, and why are you possibly in tune with it? What is Quizlet? Now, as far as I know, it was invented by a kid who didn't want to do the work in school. He wanted to invent a hack, or at least an easier way of doing things. But the thing is, from then on and forever, that is the reverberation of that business. That is the initial seed that they planted. That's what Quizlet is. It's a hack, it's a cheat thing, it's a not doing the work sort of thing, that it was invented by a school kid. It has a reverberation. Everything does. We're not in a dead matter world, right? Everything reverberates. We all pick up frequencies from everything around us. If a person is reverberating in tune with Quizlet, it says something. So this is the essence, the soul of that business. It's the frequency of that business. If your frequency is in tune with that frequency, we could say that you're putting yourself on a path towards French that will reflect this harmony in the future. A learner of French who's in tune with the frequency of something like Quizlet, well, is also putting themselves on a certain path that's in harmony with that frame of mind. It's a meeting of frequencies, right? And it doesn't even matter if Quizlet are very successful, and I know that they're publicly traded, and I know that they're making millions, and it doesn't even matter if they provide quality or not, because I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked. For all I know, they might provide quality. It doesn't matter. I don't think they do, frankly, but it's a frame of mind. What matters is that your frequency or someone's frequency is in tune with this. People might think it's a reasonable thing to do. Why wouldn't I use it? It's there. But that frequency has matched your frequency, and it says something about your frame of mind, and it says something about your future results. Everything has a reverberation. Everything reverberates. The initial seed that was planted in Quizlet still exists. That's the core of the invention. As a teacher, when I hear the words Duolingo, Quizlet, or any other, it doesn't really matter, I hear several things that show me a frame of mind that the student is in. At the moment, it could very well change later. But at the moment, they are in this frame of mind, and they reverberate with this type of learning tool. To me, it says, I'm not yet invested in languages. It says, I'm using a free app that might work or not. Doesn't really matter at this stage, but I'm using it. And it also says, I don't value really my time that much because I'm ready to give away my free time for a very uncertain result, which at the core of me, I really know it won't work. So I'm really ready to give away my time and mess around with Duolingo until I come to the conclusion that it's not working. But I'm ready to take the risk. So this is what I see as a teacher. But a lot of people who call me up or send me emails or inquire about my business have come to the end of that vibration. They're not vibrating with it anymore. They've moved on, or they've... Next, I'd like to tell you a story about myself. I went back to university when I was 34. I embarked on a master's degree in linguistics and literature, and I also picked German up in the process. I taught myself German. That was part of my studies, and that was before my PGCE, postgraduate certificate in education, so I did 6 years of that after a 15-year break. So I started university when I was 34. I had no method, I had no way of knowing how proper studying was done. As I said, I quit high school, 15-year gap, and then went back to university full-time. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to succeed. I had a certain frame of mind. So what did I do? Well, for 4 years straight, I sat in the front row, always. I never missed a lecture. Front row, wrote down everything the teacher said, and I even recorded everything the teacher said. I have it here somewhere. I have this little voice recorder thing that I put on my desk to be sure not to miss a single word. My actions, I believe, reflected a frame of mind. If you go upstream, that was my frame of mind. Success. And it showed in my actions. Ultimately, I passed with distinction. I'm not bragging, it's a fact. After a 15-year break, I had a frame of mind that led me to pass with distinction. I passed my first year back at university after a 15-year break with distinction, and I passed the whole thing with distinction, 5-6 years with distinction. It's different cycles, so I did the first year, 3-year cycle, and then 2 and then 1. Each one I passed really well, and I even, as I said, taught myself German in the process. But the thing is, I wasn't clever, I wasn't brilliant, I didn't achieve miracles, but I had a frame of mind. And if you have a frame of mind, you'll be attracted to certain behaviors which will produce certain results. That's just what I learned from my own experience. But what if I had said at university, well, you know what, I'll stay home instead, and I'll find a cheat code, and I'll go on SparkNotes to read the summary of the novels that we were reading and the plays that we analysed. I'll just go on SparkNotes for a shortcut, and I'll find an app for German. I won't go to classes, and I won't study, and I won't write down, and I won't study German, technical side of German. I'll find a shortcut, I'll find a hack. Would it have been the same knowledge, do you think? Would I be the same person sitting in that classroom? Two types of behaviour. You're in the classroom, student A goes to every lecture, sits at the front row, writes everything down. Different attitude, second student, I don't feel like working hard. You know what, I'm going to look for an app, I'm going to find the cheat codes, I'm going to find a hack. Minimal effort. Would I have been the same student, and would it have been the same type of knowledge? I wouldn't have done the second option because I didn't reverberate with it. It was not on my radar. I was not in harmony with that type of thing. There were students doing it. Strangely, they didn't really pass. They didn't get good results at all. They just disappeared. The drop-off rate was incredible. In the first 3 months, so many kids there, then so many students, then the first lot of exams at Christmas time, you start in September, Christmas time, first lot of exams, January, so many people have disappeared. It was really hard, But I wouldn't have been the same person, it wouldn't have been the same knowledge. But the fact is, it wasn't even on my radar. And while we're on the topic of university, if I can just slip in a cheeky remark, languages are college level stuff, isn't it? Languages are really complicated. They are studied at university. I've seen kids who do bachelor's degrees in English in Belgium. Maybe they have a B2, 3 years of English literature, maybe a B2. More likely between B1 and B2, that's after 3 years at university level. And people are going to use apps for that? Interesting. I'll give you another example of the same idea in my day-to-day operations. In my business, people phone me up, they send me emails, they inquire about the lessons. There are many more people who watch the videos than people who sign up to the lessons. Many more visitors who go to my website than actually inquire about classes or sign up for classes. Some prospective students speak to me on the phone. They decide it's not for them. It's good. It's actually really good. And I'm not disappointed in the slightest, and I don't consider that I've missed a sale. Not at all. It's just that upstream, the way I see it is upstream, in their vibration, they were simply not vibrating with what I'm doing, for whatever reason. In their subconscious, there's something that's not making them resonate with my frequency. So I never miss a sale. Only the people who were meant, in a sense, who vibrate with me, come my way and learn French with me. It's about a frame of mind. And if they're not in tune with what I'm doing, well, they just won't sign up. So it's not about my sales pitch, and it's never about me saying the right things on the phone to convince people to sign up. It's not about that. It's all about frequencies and what's going on upstream in the mind of the student. When I initially built this company, We Communicate, and when I designed it, just as Quizlet, just as any other business, it starts with a little seed, a little vision. I had an idea of what I wanted to accomplish with it and what I wanted students to be able to learn. There's a certain atmosphere in this business, in this school. There's a certain design, there's a way of making certain choices, leaving out certain options or choices. There's a whole number of choices that come into this to making We Communicate what it is. There's a vibe that people can feel. I believe I designed everything to the best of my ability with success in mind, the student success. It was designed for results. But some people won't be in tune with results. I shouldn't laugh. And that's all right. It's perfectly all right. I'm not saying that I'm the only place you have to go to get results. It's not that. It's more complex than that. But I do believe that it has to do with the upstream again. The frame of mind a person is in when they start to look around for French classes. You're in a certain frame of mind and you've made a certain type of decision. I'm interested in French. I want to learn French. What is available? Your frequency will guide you towards choices that are on a similar frequency. It's a fact. And people might discover me by accident, watch a video on YouTube, but quickly feel that they either vibrate with me or don't vibrate with me. You might know that consumer behavior is one of the hardest things to understand. If companies had cracked it, they'd be so happy. Consumer behavior is very, very hard to understand. And we also know that 90% of anything we do is guided by the subconscious, it's decided by the subconscious. And I think we usually buy based on the connotation of a company, the idea that we associate with a company or with a product. What image does the business, does the company, the product represent in my mind? Which ideas do I associate with a product? And it's mostly subconscious. We associate ideas and values with certain brands of products. And it's a lot less rational than we think. Again, it's all about the initial frame of mind and the frequency that you're on and that you're reverberating at. To illustrate this, I'd like to talk about Alliance Française for a second. You've all heard of the schools Alliance Française, and I'm using them to illustrate my point. What does it represent in your mind? Well, first of all, it has the word France in it. So it sounds very genuine, doesn't it? It might mean quality, an idea of being genuine, and maybe there's also a reputation attached to the name, and there's an idea of trust. You know, they're trustworthy. It has the name French in it, Française. There are different connotations attached to the name Alliance Française that we associate with this brand and that causes us to buy. And it's good because certain students reverberate, are in tune with this vibe. But if we go down another layer, what do we picture when we sign up to Alliance Française or any other business? But we're talking about Alliance Française here to illustrate a point. Well, probably subconsciously, a person who chooses Alliance Française might be thinking they're the best, they know their business. If I attend these classes, they'll alleviate the workload and plant French in my mind, and I'll go with the most trusted brands because I'm sure they know their stuff. They are, after all, Alliance Française, which means less work for me as a learner because they know their stuff, and if I go to the best, well, I'll probably learn in easier conditions. The choices are never innocent. Not at all. And whether Alliance Française or not is good quality is beyond the debate. And besides, there's different Alliance Françaises with different managements, and so it's not even whether they're good or not. I'm not talking about the quality of Alliance Française. It has to do with your vibration. Do you vibrate on their level? What's going on upstream, and what you expect to get? Who is the provider of services to learn French that you're most in tune with and that you vibe with? And you might say, well, Chris, no, you're completely wrong there, because what I project onto Alliance Française has nothing to do with it. I choose them because they're the best. Alliance Française are absolutely the best. And I would answer, really? Because they never said anything about being the best. Who said they were the best? They never said it. What I seem to know about Alliance Française is that the purpose of Alliance Française, so they are state-run, is to propagate the French language abroad. I know they're about that. That is their mission. It's almost like a diplomacy. It's almost propagating the French language abroad. That is the initial seed of the business. We've seen 3 seeds so far. The seed of Alliance Française, it reverberates a certain idea. Me, when I started my business, and I mentioned Quizlet, and every business I mentioned in this conversation has a little seed and a certain way of reverberating. They're still reflected today in the company. But I never heard anything about Alliance Française being the best. I don't think they've ever said they were the best. I think the only people who say it are the students, because a lot of students project this idea onto Alliance Française, just as we project ideas onto many other things we buy. There's always an association of ideas. You might agree with that. And again, I have to remind the viewers, this is not against Quizlet, Duolingo, or Alliance Française, and this is not about me saying I'm any better than any of them. It's not about that. They're not my competitors, and I'll tell you why. Precisely because they have their own vibe. They have their own frequency. Each of these businesses have their own frequency. And this frequency resonates with people who are on a similar frequency. So that's what a lot of buying and selling really is. So trying to get someone else's customers, I think, is absurd, because you end up getting the wrong type of people, and it creates even more problems. A person who's vibrating on the level of those companies, not the level, but the frequency, might not be the same person who's going to vibrate with me. So it would be pointless calling them competitors, because they're not competitors. To me, it all comes down to knowing what frame of mind we're in as it pertains to learning French. And in this case, asking ourselves, which source of learning am I vibrating with, and which ideas am I associating with each source of learning? I also think that it's a facet of human behavior that we don't often speak about. But we do use it all the time, interestingly. If you take the example of the street you live, wherever you live, it would be a funny idea if your potential best friend in the world lived in the same street as you, but you've just never met them. Wouldn't that be a funny thought? And do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible that your potential best friend in the world lives a few houses down, but just that your frequencies have never matched? You've just never met. What a shame. Do you think life works that way? I don't. I really don't. I think frequencies and vibrating on the level of things have a lot more to do with our choices than just chance or rational decisions. Is it rather more plausible that if you two resonated in the same way, well, you would have crossed paths already? So I'm fairly sure that my potential best friend in the world doesn't live on my street. I would have crossed paths with them. Our vibrations would have led us to meet in some way. If you've ever found yourself on holiday in a new town, visiting a new city abroad, you're using this sense of vibration. You're picking up vibes from the town because you have nothing else to go by. And you're walking around in the streets and you're using your senses to vibrate with what makes sense to you. And you're feeling the place out. So you end up in places that are in tune with you. That's what usually happens. So you never end up walking into a bar, pushing a door open, seeing a bar, pushing the door open, everyone turns round. It's a private club full of far-right motorcyclists enjoying bare-knuckle fighting and mud wrestling in the middle of the bar, and you say, "Oh, we'd better get out of here." It never happens because it wasn't on your radar. You didn't pick up these frequencies. The things that you're in tune to would never have brought you to that place. And we do this for everything we do and everything we buy. We feel things and we pick up frequencies. The student I'm speaking about in this video will know French within a year and for several reasons. The things he says, the way he approaches the job of learning French, and the things he avoids also, and the vibration he connects with. I'm pretty sure that I'm seeing the vibration he's on, which leads me to believe that he's going to do really well in French a year from now. There's a certain attitude that I see in him upstream in his initial approach to French, his frame of mind, that makes me believe it's going to happen. There's also the respect he gives to the learning. That's an interesting point also, the way he approaches it. And I'd like to ask everyone an honest question. Do you respect the app you're currently using to learn a language? Do you have respect for it? Do you value it highly? And do you think it's possible to learn from someone or something that you have no respect for? Do you think it's possible? I don't know. It's a genuine question. Can you learn something of value from something you don't respect? In a year's time, I believe that the student I'm thinking of will have completed the work. He will have achieved a good level of French. Everything he says and does indicates to me a person who upstream is vibrating with the good results. He's not trying to take shortcuts, he's patient, he's not attuned to BS learning methods, and he's going to stick with it. This I already see in him. He's going to stick with it. And that's what I believe is going to happen. I believe that a year from now he's going to do really well. And it will be interesting to make another video a year from now, and I hope he's still learning with me, to see where he is. I'd love to make this same video a year from now to see if I was right. But I predict he'll be far. I realise that this is a somewhat complex video. Some will call it unstructured. But hopefully you've walked away with a few things to think about on your journey towards French. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Chris from We Communicate. Thank you for watching this far. It's a very long video, and now I think I'll ad-lib a bit on this video. Thanks a lot. Goodbye. What I was trying to say in this video is no choices are innocent. If a certain person, everything vibrates, and if a person vibrates with a certain learning solution, it says something about their own vibration and their own frame of mind. And we take different choices according to our initial frame of mind. And a person who's vibrating, who's expecting low results in French, will make that type of decision to choose a source of learning in tune with that vibration.